There you're having stop loss money takes up space. Leave room to rack the black. Brian, I am stealing that comment. Hold on a second. I spent thousands developing these lammers to help me organize my rack. My rack is organized to the point of being, you might want to commit me for how organized my rack is, right? The way that I play it. For whatever reason, people think that I'm a maniac, right? I'm the most disciplined player you'll ever meet. And people who play with me know how disciplined I am. I'm the wizard of discipline out there. Like you know me, I had, where are they at? For Victor who doesn't know this, I know Victor's got his rack management system. I spent thousands developing these lammers to help me organize my rack. My rack is organized to the point of being, you might want to commit me for how organized my rack is, right? The way that I play it. And I feel like there's two ways to organize your rack. And Victor has one way and I have one way. And I think they're both legitimate. One is by dollar amount, right? Organize your rack into, like, if you buy them for $1,000, you put lammers like these, or you put dollar chips or quarters. Quarters work great because they separate visually. Separate your rack into 100, 100, 100, 100. Right? What Victor does is he puts another, like, bigger chip or something more obvious in the middle of that. That's the halfway point. So he buys them for $1,000. He's got 100, 100, 100, 100, a big one that marks 500, and then his next 500. He plays until he hits that white chip. That's his loss limit, right? So organizing your rack by dollar amount's fine. I organize my rack oftentimes by strategy cost. So, for example, if I'm playing the skill 66, if I'm predisposed to play the skill 66, I know I need $67 per shooter. I'll take 10 lammers, right, or 10 white chips, and I'll split my rack into $67 chunks, okay? And I'll make 10 chunks of $67, each one representing enough money to play that for one shooter. And that's how, when people say, and again, it's arbitrary, right? It's arbitrary. 10 shooters, 15 shooters, 5 shooters, whatever your number is, doesn't matter. Whatever that number of shooters is, I think David always talks about taking enough for 10 shooters, and I saw it in chatter too. Take enough out or bring enough to play for 10 shooters. It's an arbitrary number. It can be 5 shooters if you want. It could be 20 shooters if you want. Here's some basic math for you, okay? If you're gonna play $50 per shooter, you need $500 to play 10 shooters. If your stop loss is half, if your stop loss is $250, you're only playing 5 shooters. So for you to say, I'm gonna bring enough money for 10 shooters, but I'm only ever gonna play 5, then you're lying to yourself. Victor, love you, but you're lying to yourself. You're playing for 5 shooters, not 10. Bringing enough money for 10 shooters and using only 5 of them, you're lying to yourself. It's bullshit. That's not a way to play, right? Stop loss 0 means if I'm only willing to lose 250, only bring 250 in your rack. And there's a mental reason for that. Right? When you get down to the end, you're more focused. If you've got half your money in there, you feel like, I'll just leave it I get the half. Your brain turns off, right? You got to play the mental game too, but be honest with yourself. If you're going to only lose 250 and you're only going to bet 50 per shooter, you're playing for 5 shooters, and you got to know that going in and be open to say that going in. I'm only playing 5 shooters. Otherwise, the 10 shooter thing is BS. And I mean that in the most nice possible way. Victor, I love you. I love you to death, but that's wrong think. It's bad math to say I'm bringing money for 10, but I'm only gonna play 5. That's ridiculous, okay? Either play the 10 or play something else, or play the 5 differently. That's how you gotta do that. Anyway, organize your rack either by amount or separate, like I said, by how much you're gonna play on a given shooter. For me, skill 66, it's $67 10 times. And I'm gonna play it all 10 times. Right? The point of that strategy is to give 10 people the opportunity to go off on a big roll, right? If I limit that to 5, I've limited myself. But regardless, I'm gonna play all 10 shooters. That's why I say stop loss 0. So if I'm only willing to lose 250, then I gotta have $25 strategies, not $67 strategies. And that's the thing you gotta remember. Now, the 3 reasons you leave a table, and this is the stop loss conversation. You leave when you're at goal. Right? You win your 20%, whatever your goal happens to be. My goal, generally speaking, is 20%. You leave when you hit your goal. That's one reason to leave a table. The second reason to leave a table is when you're at your stop loss. And for me, that's 0. I run the whole thing out. If I lose my 250 or my 300 or my 500 or my 1,000, whatever it is, that's when I walk. Either I win or what I brought to put at risk to win that money goes away. Those are the two conditions where I leave. The number 3 reason to leave is when you're just done. Sometimes, and I get it, you're going and you're almost at your stop loss, or for whatever reason, the table ain't fun. It's just not going your way. You're just you're not enjoying the session and you think it's not going to be fruitful. Pack up and go. I get that. That's a reason to leave before your stop loss 0. If you just ain't digging it, get out. I get it. That's totally fine. But that's not a bankroll decision. That's a you personal. That's you sweating. That's your heart racing. That's your wife tapping you on the shoulder. That's somebody, shit their pants next to you and you got to leave. There's other reasons to leave besides that, but the only 2 bankroll decisions you leave are the only 2. You got your goal or you lost it all getting there. And again, lost it all sounds like a degenerate move, but again, you buy in with a purpose. You buy in with 10 times your spread to give it 10 shots. You don't buy 10 times your spread to give it 5 shots. That's sad to me. And I think that's bad. Now, Vince is saying lost limit cold table. Sure. If the table's going cold and you don't think it's going to work, you can leave. You can be, I'm done. But that's not a bankroll decision, Vince. That's a I don't believe it's working for me decision. And I think to me, that mentality, that's a brain decision. It's not a bankroll decision. And I think what we're talking about here is a bankroll decision, right? The bankroll decision has to be 0 or hero, what you buy it. I think I am, again, the most conservative, the most disciplined player you'll ever play with. If you ever play with me, anybody, you know what I'm talking about. That said, my buy-in is my bankroll is my power. That's why I bought in for a reason with that money, and there it is. And that's it. So yeah, Victor, money management and discipline is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And I think you're not hearing me when I say this. And I think a lot of people misunderstand what I say. Money management is exactly that. I have brought $1,000. I'm going to spend $100 10 times. That's it. That money's at risk. And I bring the grand for the purpose of putting it at risk. If I'm only willing to risk 500 of it, then I'm only going to play 500. And you got to be honest about that. And I think anything else to me is I want to use the word folly. It is. You're fooling yourself if you are only going to have a stop loss of half of what you bought in for. I think that's crazy. So anyway, that is me. That's my thing, and that's the reason why I'm a stop loss 0 guy. It's not about degeneracy. It's about using the 10 bullets in my gun. I'm bringing 10 shots. Does that make sense? I'm bringing 10 shots. If I'm only going to shoot 6 of them, then why did I bring 10? It makes 0 sense to me. So again, that's it. You're hoping when you play this way that the 9th shooter is the one that goes off on the 40 roller. And if you leave early, you're going to miss that. That's crazy. And I hear you here, Dusted One, right? The strategy should work. You should be able to, and again, you're right about this too. You should have a way to bounce, right? A way to adjust. And again, I don't play that way in the mornings here. I don't adjust ever in the morning shows. I just play the way, and I played through the whole bankroll. And I show you all the time how we're going to win or lose in that bankroll. But you ought to be able to definitely jump around for sure. So, all right, I think that's it. I'm going to basically look back here. So John Patrick does agree with me. Skill. And here's what John Patrick does. And watch his videos again, because he says this all the time. He says exactly what I just said. Buy in for what you're going to play with, right? If your stop loss is half of your money, let's just say you go to the casino with $1,000 and your stop loss is half, you keep 500 in your pocket, you buy into that table, that session bankroll is 500. That 500 is what's fully at risk. Now you're right. My session, my visit money might be 1,000. 500 never gets bought in with. I buy in with the 500. That gets used to play. It's not half of the 500. 500 is half of my 1,000, and that is the session bankroll is always at risk, and that's the way he preaches it. So, I think that's a really important point, and I'm glad that I'll put that up here again. Excuse me. I'm glad you brought that up because it's very, very important to realize that session money, table money, is different than your visit money, right? What you buy into the table with, you have to be able to put at risk, unless you just don't want to, right? Like I said, unless you feel like it's not your day, the crap gods are against you for whatever reason, you can bug out. That's totally cool. But again, why would you divide your money into 10 shots and only fire 5 of them? It makes 0 sense to me. So there it is. And again, you're not listening to me, Victor, so we're going to have to agree to disagree. That's not how I beat Gambler's Ruin. A hard stop loss is needed. It's a reflecting. Again, my stop loss is 0. I brought money to play with. Again, I'm taking 10 cracks at it. If you're going to bring money for 10 cracks and you don't take 10 cracks, you're a fool. That's what it is. If you're going to lose half your money, then you better play it a different way, right? That's my advice. I think that doing that is, sure, I know that you do. What I'm saying is if you're only willing to lose 5 of them, then you got a problem. And that's where I think the stop loss conversation has to be managed. We got to manage the conversation intelligently. And that's it. I think, again, having a stop loss of half makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense to me. I'm not going to walk away with shots still to be fired, right? Unless I just don't want to play anymore, which is the whole thing. So there you go. Well, I'll see here. I prefer to attack a cold table, and that's the difference, right? I'll switch and attack it. But regardless, if I'm just going to play the skill 66 10 times, I'm bringing 670. Actually, I'm bringing 750 because I got to shoot the dice a couple times to have a pass line bet. If I'm playing that strategy, I'm bringing $700, and I'm going to play it 10 times, and it's going to work or it's not. And I think you I don't know, man. That's how I look at it. I think that's an important thing. Now, let's wind this back and look at the other piece of this, right? The dollar amount way of playing is different because I'm talking about strategy costs. I'm talking about you're going to play this way 10 times, and you can really scope that out, right? You can say, for example, the come ladder takes 7 units, right? The skill 66 takes $66. 160 across takes 1060. Those are obvious 10 shot ways, but look at the way Dr. S plays, okay? And Vince, I'll use you because you guys, I'm looking at you the last, I'm putting this up here just so you can show your name. The way that you play with this perpetual pressing, it's kind of a martingale, right? Or the permanent press that we did. You can't have your bankroll divide up into 10 pieces in that kind of a strategy because you're always pressing, right? Every time you go out, you're at, whatever, you're at 220, then you're at 330, then you're at 440, and then you lose that, you go back out for 440 again, right? So you can't really have 10 shots at it, if that makes sense. That's a strategy play where you need 5K, and 5K funds a certain number of losses, but you don't know where the losses are going to come. So in that case, you can't divide by 10. You're going to have the 5K, and again, you're willing to put the 5K at risk because you might be martingaling or laddering down to the very, very end of that thing and working it back up again. In that case, your whole bankroll has to be the hammer. You're playing with a bazooka there. It's a one-shot deal. Your bankroll is the one shot you got. When you're laddering or martying, your whole bankroll has to be there. Otherwise, that half stop loss limits your ability to keep playing, and that's also a big mistake. I think, again, you've got to bring what you're ready to rock and roll with. So there it is. All right. Let's see. Do I always play the same? No, I do not, Clay. I do not play the same strategy for 10 shooters. That's me. I bring enough, right? If I, how do I say this right? There are times where I do, right? I'll bring, let's say, and I use the 66 as an example because it's so easy to do the math on that one. I'll bring 660 and I'll have 10 shots of 660 sitting here. And I'll play that on all the people, right? Except for people that I know, like me or Ian or somebody else who I know how they shoot. I may go different strategy for them. So I technically have enough for 10 people, but I've got other bankrolls sitting here as kind of a side bankroll that I use when I play. And I'll do 660 in the rack, or 670 in the rack rather, plus 320 for me, plus 160 for my friend. And I'll play those two differently than the rest of the table. So I'm like I said, I'm kind of a maniac in the rack, how I keep things up. But yeah, I set it up in certain ways. Now the 66, if it's not going well, the table does turn cold. I'll use the 66 on a different way of playing, but I'll keep it limited to that number. I may switch sides, but I'll come back to it. So there it is. Hope that helps. Let's see. Anthony says, I think playing with a stop loss can work if you're playing for a paycheck, which is a different strategy. Otherwise, I agree with stop loss 0. I'm not sure I understand that. Playing for a paycheck, the stop loss, I don't know. If you're playing for a paycheck, let me try and unwind my thought here. So what I'm doing in the morning is this. and the daily paycheck. I'm playing with enormous bankrolls, by the way. I'm playing with $5,000 or $10,000 on this show because I know how hard it is to win, right? And I'm trying to demonstrate a couple of things. One is it's impossible to win every single day. You can see no matter what strategy I run here, one of the 4 days we're probably going to lose money on it. It's just so hard to win. Even with $5,000 looking to win 500, it's hard to win a consistent 10%. I'm using the big money because I want to show that even 10% of $5,500 is hard to do. I've challenged you all before. Go to the casino with $100 and win 5. Do that 30 days in a row. If you can do that, then you can take 10,000 and win 500. So yeah, if you're playing for a paycheck, I agree. What you're saying here, I think is I'll try and rephrase this. What you're saying is you put the whole thing at risk to win your $500. I get that. That's kind of what I'm doing. It's kind of what I'm proposing that we do here. If you're going there for a good time or to win a lot of money tonight, like if your goal is to go to the casino and win a ton of money, you got to play your 10 shooters. Does that make sense? I think you got that backwards. I think if I'm looking to win a lot of money, if I'm looking to go catch the hot roll and cash out for $1,200, I need all 10 shooters. I need one of them to go off. That's why you do that. If I'm doing the daily paycheck thing, I got a huge bankroll. I'm using the whole thing, right, to win a little tiny amount, and that's my out. There's a different mindset in how you use your tools to win a tiny amount of a big amount every day, or wait, and hammer the big roll, which is what the 10 shooters in the rack thing is for. So there's that. I hope that answers everything. I hope I didn't piss anybody off, but that's the way that I view this thing. That's the way I view it. I think stop loss has to be 0 for either way of playing. I really believe that. I think you're going to use your 10 shots to find the good guy. You're going to use your entire bankroll to get that 10% and bug out of there, and there it is. Yes, I do, Dan. I absolutely get out of that. Now, I'm going to say yes in air quotes to you. Always. Like I said last night, you win, or yesterday. I like to now, my new mental thing is win my last bet. Hot shooter, I'm done. Unless, and here's the big unless I'm playing with Brian, who I see here in the room. If I'm playing with friends and I'm there for a good old time, I'm not there for my daily paycheck, then after the hot shooter, I lock everything up. I got my initial bankroll, the profit that I'm willing to leave with, locked, and then I'll short stack, and I'll play for a while on a short stack, different strategies. I'll have some fun. That money, again, is completely throwaway money at that point. But yeah, I will leave after a hot shooter unless I'm with friends and we're there to kind of do a thing, just party and have fun. I'll burn a couple hours with tiny money, and I'll bet table minimum and just have some fun and work the short stack for a while. But yeah, I definitely look to leave if I get there. I'll give you an example, a really good example, because the other day, where's that quote? I want to put it back up there again. Victor, I love you too. You know that. I'll put Dr. Dan's quote up. The other day when I went to visit Zach, I flew in like midnight on Friday. Saturday, got up at like 8 in the morning and drove 5 hours to see Zach. On the way down, I stopped at a casino that I like. I like this casino that's on the way. They got super hard service tables. It's just a fun place to play. And I rolled up in there, and I had like 2 hours to kill, because I'd left too early for the concert, and Zach was at work till 5. And I'm like, oh, I gotta burn a couple hours. I walked up to the craps table, which was totally empty. There was one guy there. He had just 7 down. I walked in, bought in for 500, took the dice. And here's me. I shoot from the don't, right? Shoot from the don't. I set a point, 2 rolls, made the point. I'm like, cool, my throw feels good. Next time I went in and I did the 320, and I rolled 18 rolls. 18 rolls, and I had made a couple $100, whatever my profit was in that moment, and colored right up. Like I was there for maybe 20 minutes. So the guy down there wanted me to keep rolling, and I colored myself out. I put a pass line bet down, and I rolled one more time for him. Didn't even bet on myself. I just rolled again, and it was a short. I think I rolled 5 that time. Short one, because that was it. Passed the dice, and I went and I watched football for 2 hours. That's me. I'm like I said, I'm hyper disciplined. I was having a great day. I was feeling really good, but I'm not going to sit there and put it at risk again. So that's me. That's the way that I do it. What happens to? I'm not sure that's for me or not, Victor. But what is Vince says? Highlight Brian's comment. I got to go back and see it. They're having stop loss money takes up space. Leave room to rack the black. Brian, I am stealing that comment. Hold on a second. And it's not. I know that I sound like a degenerate when I talk this way, but the point is this: that's your firepower. Your firepower is either your 10 shooters that you're playing with or your whole rack. If you're playing the way that I play some of these strategies, you've got to use your money. It's there for you to use to make it happen. And I think 10 shooters, although arbitrary, I think that it's a good number. It does take about 6 to 8 before a table will change sides maybe. 10, 15 shooters, if you can last that long, it's time is your enemy, but it's also on your side, right? You got to wait the variant out as well. You got to wait for a variant to occur. And I think leaving too early is a problem there. So I'll just close it with this. Play how you want to play. If your stop loss is half, your stop loss is half, that's fine. But buy in for half. That's what I'm saying. I want your rack to represent what you're willing to put at risk. That changes the way you approach it. I think, to me, I'm a mental player, I'm a math player, and seeing what's in my rack is judging the way that I play. And I don't want to, seeing a lot makes me feel good, but if I'm not using it all, then I feel like I've got a problem. All right.